Specialists have long identified among the factors of adolescent maximalism such manifestations as cruelty and lack of pity. And it is especially evident in high school. Often in this environment, teenagers who are different from others and who cannot give a decent response are chosen as targets for mockery and ridicule. Eva fully experienced, as they say, on her own skin all the hardships of this situation, because her father, unlike the parents of other classmates, could not boast of social status and income level. The man who brought up his daughter alone, without a mother, and who was seriously injured in a car accident, was lame, which resulted in his serious limitation in employment and, accordingly, in the possible level of income. But who cares about the reasons for this state of affairs when the result is already obvious to everyone? A very modest life in rented accommodation and a minimum of other material opportunities. That's how they lived, father and daughter, modestly and without excessive spending. Look, here comes the bum, as always, graceful in her nothingness. Stasik was the most ardent fan of Eva, and therefore always tried to hurt her more than other classmates. What, wretch, your daddy is a limping bum. Slavik, whose father worked in the district administration and often sent his family members to Europe and America for cultural holidays in what he called civilized society, joined his friend. Your ancestors named you in honor of your ancestress? Stasik didn't stop, because it was very useful, in his version of his mental abilities, to troll the homeless woman, together with Slavik, from the point of view of asserting his own authority. Chaikin, let me through to the desk. Eva looked confidently into the eyes of her offender, so that he couldn't stand the look. I didn't really want to touch you. The pimply teenager made a characteristic movement of his shoulders, which could mean that he disliked the society of the exile. The classmates giggled and murmured, watching Slavik trying to repeat Eva's movements in a cartoon form. It was not very funny, but the comrades in the scourging of Eva persistently squeezed out of themselves cheerfulness, which turned the whole action into some farce of not very good actors. Same, Eva, did you prepare for the maths test, or did you help your dad to clean the toilets? Another classmate, Irina, tried to contribute to the common efforts of the class. Irka, her electricity must have been switched off for non-payment. How can she get ready? Her friend was supported by Svetka, whose father worked as a director of some transport and logistics company, and, according to the standards of her classmates, was the personification of the national rich. Perhaps the banter would have continued for a long time, but the bell rang for the lesson, and the maths teacher came into the classroom. Hello, my dear students. Hello. The chorus of voices reflected not so much the teacher's greeting as fear of the future test. Today is your lucky day. I love to watch your diligence during the knowledge test. The promised test today will reveal who is the smartest and who needs to improve. Surprisingly, Eva was the only one who felt confident and calm. Besides, the teacher's presence in the classroom freed her from unnecessary mockery from her classmates. Now everyone was stuck in their notebooks and tried to retrieve from the far depths of their brains at least some knowledge of their favourite discipline. Eva had completed her assignment in 20 minutes, but did not hand it in yet, but went deep into the memories of her life. My poor daddy! He's limping now and could only find a job in a shopping centre cleaning public toilets and the area around the building. It's only in patriotic books they write that any labour is honourable, and in reality, people are very arrogant about representatives of such professions. Today, he'd never get another job. There was a time when my father was perfectly normal. He was married to Natalia. They had a full-fledged family and prosperity no worse than most other acquaintances. Father worked as a trucker, and often brought his favourite girls expensive gifts from his business trips abroad. He spoilt Eva and fulfilled all her whims. But one day a misfortune happened, and Victor had an accident on his lorry. Soon hard times came. Eva's mum couldn't stand the lack of money and left her helpless husband, who needed intensive care. A man in the prime of life found himself in a wheelchair. 2 miserable years with his father's almost immobile body did not give optimism to anyone close to him. He was really depressed. Who in his place would have it any other way? Natalia left him for another man and took Eva with her. She was only 2 years old. Her father started abusing alcohol. He became depressed for a long time. After a while, he pulled himself together and started to exercise. One of his acquaintances recommended him a good method and even paid for sessions of special massage. Gradually, Eva's father began to regain his strength and health. He started to get on his feet and to learn to walk on his own again. But he did not have his own home. He lived alone, without any support from his relatives. Victor was a native of a remote village, because of which he had to use a rented flat in the capital with his wife and daughter. Naturally, after his wife left her disabled husband, the landlords asked him to vacate the flat due to his lack of solvency. It was good that he found a decent friend who gave him the opportunity to live in an old country dacha with a minimum of facilities and comfort. Times were hard. Victor did not live in the full sense of the word, but suffered. However, he had a pivot inside him, and after long and exhausting training, he got back on his feet. It took 2 years for Victor to move independently. Soon, he found a job according to his abilities. He got a job as a janitor. It would seem that life was getting better, but then he learnt that his ex-wife married an Italian and went to live with him abroad. These newlyweds did not take their daughter with them into their new life and left her in the care of her old grandmother. And what can a half-blind and sick old woman give to a growing girl? The father's heart was bleeding because his own daughter was practically an orphan when her parents were alive. Victor took Eva with him. Yes, it was very difficult. The family was poor and in need of the most necessary things. But the father was close to his daughter, and they were a friendly family. Now the limping but determined man knew why he lived. His daughter was with him, and for her he was capable of many things. All the money he earned was spent only on Eva. Victor's purpose in life was his daughter's future, and she paid her father with gratitude. She was not ashamed of her defective father, as is often the case in such a situation, but only loved and respected him. Sometimes her mother called from Italy, but it was only for pro forma reasons. Eva realized that Natalia didn't care about her. She focused all her attention on life in Europe and all sorts of pleasures. In other words, she didn't need the trouble. A still, quite young woman was enjoying herself and pampered in the conditions of civilization and comfort. Unexpectedly for Eva, the bell about the end of the lesson rang, and the girl, as if waking up from memories, she shuddered. Rising from her seat, Eva handed in her control work and left the classroom for recess. As it was, life stabilized and flowed in its measured rhythm. But one day there was an accident in the shopping centre where Victor worked. The fire quickly spread through the building and covered a huge area. And the playroom, where there was a child, was also caught in the fire zone. He was crying loudly and calling out for help. His mother was helpless because the fire had cut her off from her son. Victor instantly assessed the situation and fearlessly stepped into the wall of flames and smoke. A few minutes later, he returned from there with the baby in his arms. The mother, dazed with grief, rushed to the limping man, who could barely stand on his feet, and kissed him. The firefighters wondered how an ordinary man without special equipment could cope with such a difficult rescue operation. Everyone was shocked by the heroic act of the janitor, and the most interesting thing is that the rescued boy turned out to be the son of the owner of the shopping centre. Of course, the respected businessman could not stay away from the event. He quickly found out all the life circumstances of his employee and decided to thank him with the means at his disposal. A small 2-room flat was bought close to work, and after his training, Victor was appointed manager of the shopping centre. But only such a fearless and dedicated person can be entrusted with such a responsible task of managing my facility. The entrepreneur's firm tone showed that he was completely confident in his choice. "Thank you, Igor Vladimirovich. I won't let you down." Victor was very pleased with this turn of his life circumstances. "In the evening, please visit our restaurant on the ground floor. My wife and I have decided to celebrate this event. Now you are not a stranger to our family." The businessman put his hand on the newly appointed manager's shoulder in a friendly manner. "Of course I will," Victor smiled. "You won't mind if I come with my daughter Eva?" "It will be a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to watching your heiress." In the evening, we had a small gathering at the restaurant. Therefore, the conversations at the festively decorated table immediately became confidential. "Eva, are you going to have a graduation ball soon?" Igor looked at the girl carefully. "Yes." Eva was slightly embarrassed that she was in the company of a famous businessman and could easily communicate with him. "I think that such a beautiful girl should be appropriately equipped for such a solemn ceremony." The owner of the shopping centre looked at his wife. "Igor, it seems to me that in our Italian boutique Venice from tomorrow they start showing a new collection of ball gowns. What if you present our lovely guest with a holiday certificate as a token of our desire to be helpful?" "Darling, you're a darling. Eva, I insist that you pick out your gala outfit tomorrow." "Daddy, do you mind?" The girl blushed with pleasure and embarrassment. "Ivushka, we will be happy to see you irresistible at the main celebration of your life." Victor was the very embodiment of paternal love. Eva was in 7th heaven. If she had been told a month ago that she would shine at the school prom as the first beauty of the graduating class, she would have thought that the man had gone mad. She had even considered not going to the prom, afraid of her classmates' ridicule. And now her most cherished wishes were coming true. And here came the long-awaited graduation ball, at which Eva caught the eyes of everyone present. Now all the former offenders of the ugly duckling, including Slavik, stood, as they say, with sagging jaws. In their hardened minds, they could not understand why this bright representative of the lowest social stratum had at once become a member of the elite of society. In their opinion, such an honour could be given only to worthy people, the list of which was well known to them. "Queen of the evening, may I invite you to dance?" The cheerful voice from the microphone referred to a young man who looked like a fairy tale hero from a girl's dreams, and his gaze was directed at Eva. The girl was stunned for a moment from surprise, and increased attention to her own person. "I don't mind." Dancing began, during which everyone admired the graceful execution of complex choreographic movements of this beautiful couple. "So this is Andrei, Igor Vladimirovich's eldest son. He's from the parallel class." Irka so bulged her fishy eyes that from the outside it could seem that they could now burst from the tension. "Exactly." Slavik, who was dancing with her, now looked more like a broken moonwalker who had got into a very awkward position. "Is she a witch?" Irka didn't stop. "No, we just didn't see her as beautiful and clever when we knew that she and her father were poor." Slavik's voice for the first time in his life did not express mockery towards Eva. Victor stood next to Igor and talked about the future of their children. An hour ago, Andrei had shared some interesting information with his father. It turned out that he had liked Eva for a long time, only he did not know how to establish a relationship with a person not from their circle. And now everything was working out in the most favourable way. Apparently, magic only happens when people are worthy of it. And so It was with Eve and her father that this miraculous story happened. And from an ugly duckling, the girl turned into a beauty, to the envy of her bad classmates and to the joy of her favourite daddy.